it is to just go ahead, pull the trigger, and you know what? Hope for the best. Maybe it'll work out. Maybe it won't.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
See there, as of right now, we've got nobody watching us, so there's no risk.
Yeah, and I'm trying to see and make sure that we're online. So let's, oh, there's somebody. So we've got at least one person watching.
Yeah, who knows? The internet gods may have done canceled us and scrubbed us from existence.
Hey, I got a YouTube notification and I got a Facebook notification this time.
Well, Facebook, I'm like, I have this video froze, and I was actually wanting to share this video. I mean, it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty amazing. Let me change over and let me share this.
Yeah.
While we're like jibber jabbering around, I'm going to
Yeah.
share my screen, and you know, I think this is maybe the way we are. When you believe you're in yourself, you become unstoppable.
Well, all right, let me share your screen here. So let's hit a couple of buttons. Wow.
Watch this guy. Look at this. Is well,
That's amazing. Wow.
I mean, those plates on that bar, each one is like, I think, 45 pounds
Yeah, I was going to
apiece.
say about 45. That's amazing. It kind of reminds me of there's a fishing guy named Clay Dyer. And Clay has no arms and legs. He's a professional fisherman, drives a boat, drives his pickup truck, has literally no arms and legs, was born that way. Ties his own knots, does everything. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. The takeaway here is that the only thing in life that limits us is us.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
truly
it,
is.
yeah. Hello, Julie Ferris. Glad you are here. Everybody else, I see we've climbed up around 70 folks, and
Yeah,
glad y'all are all here. Say something in the comments. Let us know who you are. Let us know you're there. We're glad you're there, and we hope you're going to engage in tonight's show.
yeah, and most of you probably know the deal, but if you have forgotten, then Duke and I are going to sit here and ramble for a few minutes. We got our little intro and countdown timer we'll do. That gives y'all time enough to make you a good stiff drink. I am doing the iced tea thing out of my blue cup tonight,
Well,
and I think you've got a special cup. Look,
I,
you have the
I have
Bossier
a
watch.
a special cup of coffee tonight. Out
Yes,
of a special cup. Good
yeah,
old Bossier watch, keeping an eye out for you. It's missing something in the bottom of it though.
mm,
I mean, I'm a little concerned about what I'm missing out of the bottom of it.
well, we might have to see if we can get a cockroach in the bottom of that. We'll have to remind everybody. Once upon a time, we had cockroach of the week, and we've not forgotten about that. So, anyway, we appreciate everybody watching. Yeah, it looks like we're up to 60 plus 70, about 70 people. Hello, everybody. We see y'all in the comments. Let us know if the audio sounds good. Um, Hopefully, mine sounds halfway decent. I am sucking on a cough drop because that's about the only residual issue I have is this little bitty nagging cough every now and then. So I'll try to keep that to a minimum.
James Nolan commented and said, "Hey, Margie Ann Johnson. Hello, Margie Ann. Glad you're here." Linda Carter Hammer.
Yeah.
Thank you, Miss Hammer, for being present.
So we got several things that we're going to discuss tonight when we come back from our countdown and all that. First of all, we're going to talk about what's the deal with the show being off and show being on and holidays and all that. We also are going to talk about the city council meeting today. They kind of dissed the mayor again, from what I
I
could
mean, look,
see.
and Rex, it was not nothing long and drawn out. Look, it might
Yeah,
have been only 10 minutes long,
yeah,
but
it was a short meeting.
it was the lack of what happened that was the story.
Yeah, it's not what was said. It's, well, what wasn't said. Anyway, and we'll give a little bit of an update on kind of where we sit with the police jury and a little bit of an update on some Cypress stuff that we're digging into. And we have a guest coming on, and we're going to talk about First Church.
Now, not just any guest. I mean, this is a special guest.
Yeah, kind
Wouldn't
of
you
a
agree?
kind of a insider, so to speak. Well, maybe not
I
an
mean,
insider. I wouldn't say that. He'll kind of
no,
clarify that.
I don't think it's an insider, but I mean, I think it's the way I'll describe this is when a person walks in faith and a person is willing to live in the light, I mean, I don't know how other to describe it. I mean, I respect somebody like
Right.
that. Somebody
Right.
that will go out here not knowing how the chips are going to fall and is going to speak up to I I I I mean, my
Yeah.
hat's off.
Yeah.
I got to
We'll
tell
see.
you.
Could be a very interesting conversation, to say the least.
Hey, Tahoe Tommy,
Mhm.
he's like you said in the Bossier City Council, he struck again in
Right.
Bossier in more than
Right.
one way. There's a lot there.
Oh yeah, something
And
about a whirly bird too, but we'll have to talk about that.
yeah. Oh, you mean Chandler Air.
Oh yeah. So anyway, all right, let's do our countdown. Then folks, just so you know, about 2.5 minute countdown, and then we got some little intro that we play. It's actually about a minute now, so we'll be about 2.5, 3 minutes or whatever. Tag your friends, text your friends, let them know we're online. We've got some great stuff to talk about tonight. We will be back in just a few minutes. What do you say,
Yeah,
Mr. Lyle?
share the show because a lot of people they may be thinking like, "Hey, we're still on vacation or something," but share the show for us so that folks will know we're on and talking.
We are back. All right, here we go. Countdown, commence.
They feel helpless, they don't feel heard, they have nowhere to turn.
In all honesty, we try to lay low a little bit because of the fear that we would not be able to camp there.
And I titled it "A Shot Across the Bow of the Good Old Boys."
Hello, everybody. I don't think I've ever done a video before on here, but yeah, I wanted to tell y'all what frustrates me a little bit about permits.
The cockroach of the week is, drumroll please, Allie Feaster Smith.
We can't be apathetic about what's going on in our state. We have to all pull up our bootstraps and get on top of this. So you're right. There's a problem out there. I mean, and man, you can see it everywhere.
Well, look, we have allowed government to become our wherewithal to everything.
Well, I've not heard my name in stable or Baton Rouge in stable in the same sentence in a long time.
You're about to be killed by a Zamboni, or you're gonna die in 5 minutes.
This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by David B. Womack for all your contracting and construction needs. The Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 23 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting is an IWTP customized training provider with over 25 years of success to show for it. Call them for a free consultation today. Pelican Training and Consulting matches employers with 50-plus employees with training dollars. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And the many supporters, donations, and folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go.
Yeah. Okay. So let's make sure everything's still good to go with our software. That's looking pretty good. Guest is in the green room, so we'll bring him out in a little bit. 107 people. We are back. We have made
We're
it successfully through a countdown, and it's been a little haphazard the last couple of weeks.
It has been haphazard, but I mean, it's life has been lifey, and
Yes.
we've I mean, we had to cancel a show for some reason. I don't even remember the reasons now. It's been so long. I mean,
Well,
just like everything seems to run together.
well, the last, let's just say 3 or 4 weeks for me have been interesting to say the least. We had a rout of sickness run through the house, and basically I lost, I don't know, a week and a half, 2 weeks where, I don't know. I don't really remember much about it, but anyway. And then my dad passed away, let's see, weekend before last. And so that caused, obviously, some family things that we had to take care of and have a funeral. And as you know, my dad was a fan of the show, had actually started watching the show
He
4, 5, 6 months ago. So,
he was a fan of the show, and he was cool because
yeah,
he called me, and you may not realize this, but he called me like after the show when we were talking about you as a kid pushing the peas around the plate,
right.
and he he got a kick out of that. You may not
Yeah.
realize it, but he got a kick out of that. And the most I got to tell you, it was pretty cool when you were talking about how the one night of the show when we were talking about none other than the infamous police juror Juliana Parks,
Mhm.
and what did you say? He called her and said,
He
"Hey."
called her and was trying to, set up a meeting to get on the show. And I'm like, Dad, she has our phone numbers. If she wanted to come on, she could. But he was like, he wanted to make sure that, he reached out to her. And he said she answered the phone, was completely nice. And, they had a good conversation and all that. So, a little bit of credit, even though Juliana's not always on our good list, a little bit of credit to her for that. So.
Well, he was a real guy, and I appreciated that about him. And you know, um, sorry for your loss, and we are back. And uh,
The show goes on, life goes on.
show goes on.
All
So
right, so that's kind of where we've been, folks. So it's been a little haphazard, and again with the holidays too. We just decided to pretty much skip a little bit there. But anyway, we are back, and we have lots of interesting things to talk about. But first, I think we want to talk about maybe for just a minute or so, kind of why we do the show. What started us originally?
you know, a lot of folks watching this show, maybe I don't know. I think there's a lot of folks that maybe haven't been attuned to local politics as much as maybe say you and I have been for a while. And one of the common denominators that you and I or brought us together, or Jim Wells and
Yeah,
My Bossier.
that's right.
A lot of folks on here may not recognize or know that name or know who that was, but he had a blog years ago. It was called My Bossier. And in that blog, he would touch on all of the subjects that people would talk about privately in our community, but they wouldn't talk about it publicly. And when he would talk about those things, everybody would chime in on that blog, good or bad, they would chime in on it. They would chime in on it anonymously. And, that issue or that subject would be made public.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of saw, it served a purpose, and
Right,
we
it
saw a
did.
need for that same thing. Regular media doesn't kind of go to a lot of those places. And we just said, you know what? Hey, there's a need for that. So we were going to go there, but in a little bit of a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of joke about it that we're not here to tell you about the beautiful flower gardens. We're here to tell you somewhat about the train wrecks and discuss that. If you want to see the regular news or whatever, watch the regular news. But what we try to do is stay close to the political happenings, whether it's the police jury or the city council or, with the library situation and even First Church that we're going to talk about here in a bit. There's a political tie into that. We're not on First Church and Brad just for the heck of, being against a church or anything like that. It's because, we've argued that the church has been weaponized or used in the past for political purposes, and that's why, we're interested in it. And I think that's why a lot of other folks are interested in it too. So,
Yeah, and Rex, to that point, there's two things I want to say about that. To those people that would throw a criticism to us to say, "Oh, you guys are just in it for the money." I got to tell you right now, I'm not in it for a penny.
Right.
If anything, it costs me money to do this. It costs me relationships. It costs me business to do this. But you know what? I think there is value in it for the public. I want to see things improved for our community. I want to see things improved for our state and our country. I do.
Right.
And I'm not in this to make a dime. I don't do this for that. So for the politicians that have said that publicly, shame on you.
Yeah.
Shame on you for saying that. And Rex, you know this, but to those of you watching, because we've been criticized for, people who are friends of ours, us calling them out on the show.
Mhm.
That maybe, look, we should show some favoritism or something. Hey, that's your friend of yours. You shouldn't do that or whatever. But when we started this, we said there's no place that we won't go. None,
Right.
zero, right?
Right. Yep. You are absolutely right.
And I mean, we are going to continue to do that. We're going to continue to go every place, regardless of whether it's somebody close and personal. And even tonight in this show, even tonight, there will be people that we have had relationships with for a lot of years. I mean, I can tell you firsthand. I mean, there's one person, we'll raise their name in the show, that I've had a relationship with since the early 80s. Early 80s. Y'all do the math on that. And, it doesn't give me, it doesn't make me happy to have to do that. But if I didn't do that and I didn't go there, what would that say about me? What would that say about Rex?
Right. And look, one more point about all of this is we're not out to attack anybody personally. In other words, if you have family drama or whatever is going on in your life, I don't care about that. And Duke, I don't think you do either. It's only when it affects political office or things that go on in our local, state, or even every now and then federal government that, we really concern ourselves with discussing it. So, that's for those of you that are new, that's a little bit more about us.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the thing is that we need to be talking about all of these subjects. We need to be talking about it in the light of day. These conversations that we have, privately and talking about, that doesn't do our community and do all of us any good. I mean, I think that's a lot of the problems of why we've gotten to where we've gotten today in society is that we don't talk openly. We don't talk
Right.
out in the public, and politicians count on that, and
Mm-hmm.
that
They do.
that's the why of this show is to
Yeah.
get it out there in the open, right or wrong, whatever. If it's wrong, you know what? The light's going to sanitize that too.
You are very correct, my friend. So 132, actually more than that, if we go back and count all the Louisiana Watch and all that we kind of branched off for a little bit doing. But, 130 plus shows later, well, we're still here. And folks, y'all are still watching, and we appreciate every one of you. All right.
So hey, Rex, did you hear that Bossier City, the city of Bossier City, they are on the forefront of economic development? Did you know that?
No, I was not aware of that, Duke. How are we on the forefront of economic development?
I'm not sure, but they may have got the Bossier Chamber of Commerce and our good friend Lisa down there to get them on the front page, or they may have paid for some, something saying they're number one in the country or whatever. But I got to tell you, I'm thinking that, Bossier City is at the forefront of economic development. And for all of you watching, did y'all know that? I'm just wondering, did y'all know that? I mean, I'm not talking about Cyber Command. You remember everybody had all these stickers.
Well,
I had one. We'd
you
ride
know,
around Bossier with our Cyber Command stickers on our cars.
most people don't realize, but there's nearly as much of cyber command like underground. I'm not sure on the specs of the building, and some of that's top secret, voodoo stuff. But there's as much of underground nearly as there is above ground for the cyber command. But we are on the forefront of economic development above ground,
Now wait a minute.
like hovering above the ground.
Now wait a minute. Are you talking about the secret underground rail tunnel that went from Barksdale out to the missile base?
Oh yeah, and they were putting cruise missiles in it and shipping them, under the interstate out there, and I don't know, whatever the tinfoil hatters say.
But look, I will tell you, Rex, you may not have known this. Do you know where the Cuban Missile Crisis photos were processed at?
Well, that is an interesting question, and I should know that, but no, I don't.
Well, I will tell you, I'm with a lot of certainty that I know where it took place, and I think that the majority of people watching our show are geographically really close to where that happened.
Really? Interesting.
Really?
Well, this isn't anything top secret, along that lines, but I'm going to go ahead and pull up the screen because I'll assume that you're talking about the newly constructed helipad out there by City Hall.
Chandler Air. Yeah, who knew? Economic development in Bossier City. I mean, there's not enough airports, so Mayor Tommy Chandler has decided that we're going to go into the, air business in Bossier City.
Yeah, and look, pretty much, those little whirly birds flying around. It's kind of like a bigger version of a drone. Well, a lot bigger version of a drone, but pretty much once they take off the ground, they're under the purview of the FAA. So, I guess it's legal to land the whirly bird out there on the front lawn.
Well, I mean, look, credit to Mayor Tommy Chandler. He's bringing air service to Bossier City, via Bossier City Hall. So if you are an aspiring business owner in Bossier City and you want to have a client come to Bossier, you don't have to go to Shreveport and, land at one of those. You can just call Chandler Air and you can reserve your spot on the grass at Bossier City Hall and you can land right there. Because that's exactly what happened in this case.
Well, our good friend Julie Ferris says, "You sure that's not for FBI chauffeurs? If I can talk, chauffeur service." Well, hey, Julie, maybe they're making sure that they can get there and do an FBI raid at City Hall even faster.
Now look, Rex, we would be remiss if we didn't give credit to who broke the story, but none other than, the victim of Zamboni Gate, John Settle, and the Inquisitor. I mean, he
Yes.
was on top of his game and he caught the fact that there was a helicopter that landed at City Hall. He apparently did the rooting around and determined that it happened to be a client of Lou Chandler, is what I understand, Tommy's brother. And they sought the permission from the mayor to be able to not have to go to Shreveport and land at, either one of the airports over there and land at City Hall. And voila.
Maybe the Tahoe was in the shop and he didn't want to, he didn't have a way to go over there and drive across the river and go get his brother, or his brother go get his client, or I don't know, whatever family business was going on. But,
Well,
all right.
so
Well, that's interesting and good. And like you said, good thing that John Settle was on top of it.
yeah, I mean, so look, y'all call Chandler Air to reserve your helipad.
Yeah, we were, and maybe they're giving rides. What, $20 a ride, $25 a ride? What does it cost to ride around in a helicopter?
Don't know, never did it. Can't tell you.
All right. So next up on the agenda, we're gonna bring our guest on, and we're gonna move to another topic, or what?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I was going to go there, whether or not, because, we always say the Gob Network, but I'm thinking that after we bring our guest on, maybe we need to go here because we may need to revise this because I am under the impression that there's also a GOG network.
Really?
Yes, sir.
God, good old girl. Oh, yes, good old girl network, huh?
Yeah, because we always coin it the good old boy network, but I have been educated that there is potentially a GOG network, good old girl
Well,
network.
it would be kind of sexist of us just to continue to propagate the good old boy network because, yeah, I guess it does go both ways. Of
Yeah,
course,
so
I'm not going to get into the whole pronoun thing. So, let's just leave it at good old boy
are
and good old girl network.
are you saying that you don't go for the woke thing? Is that what you're saying? You're not woke,
I
Rex?
I am still asleep in some respects.
Michael
All right.
Ferris says, "Does our non-emergency government own a helicopter?"
Our non-emergency government. That's
Oh,
great.
he's on
Okay.
fire. He is on fire. He says, "Dollar store construction hub."
Yeah, no kidding. Ryan Haygood says, "Hey, there is a helipad at the state police. Yeah, but that's all the way out there across the service road, and
Yeah,
Ryan. I mean, come
but
on.
Ryan, they got lights. I mean, they got a concrete pad. I mean, that dude right there landed between the oak trees and the street lights right there in front of the mayor's office.
Yeah,
I mean,
just set her down right there.
I guess they had, Chief Zagoni walk outside and Steve Dog Pound Pinnell walk out and set up the landing zone. I
Yeah,
don't
maybe
know.
we went
Maybe.
out there can of spray paint, put him a big X out there so he could land.
Yeah, probably so.
All right,
So in all
let's
seriousness,
yeah,
it
let's go ahead
shouldn't
and let's go ahead and do our guest.
let's do our guess. So last show, Rex, it's been so long ago. I mean, we may get it wrong. I mean, we get things wrong a lot. I
Every
mean,
now
we
and
get
then.
things right a lot, but we get things wrong a lot too. We started talking about we had gotten an update. There was a new filing
Hmm.
with the First Church saga, and you
Right.
recall during the show, someone brought it to our attention, and they forwarded the amended petition that was filed with the court. And I think I don't remember. I haven't went back and watched our previous show, but I think we pulled up a few pages of it, and we kind of because we had not had a time to read it at all. And we said that after we delved through it, we were going to kind of read it.
Right.
Well, during that time, we had somebody reach out to us that had some concerns about that petition,
Hmm.
right? Am I
Yes, we
describing that
did.
right? By
Yeah.
all means, stop me if I'm wrong.
No, that's
And
correct.
had a little bit of dialogue with us, and they didn't feel. I'm putting words in somebody's mouth. Why don't we just bring the guests in and let them articulate why they reached out?
Well, let me make sure that I can get our guest in because now he's been in here fine and we're having technical difficulties. So let me get
Well,
him to reconnect.
I will keep rambling. So this person was named in the suit,
Hmm.
and they reached out, and they had their opinions about the suit and about where their name was brought up in the suit, and they wanted to be able to share their side of the story regarding the suit.
Yeah, so let me give Brian just a second here and see if we can get his video back active. I think we've got his audio active. So let's see. All right, he's going to reconnect. So we'll give him just a minute because we had him on hold there for a few minutes anyway. All right, let's see if we can do this. Guest is in the green room. Come out of the green room. It was going so well.
So on November 4th, a lot of folks may not remember, but that was when hello Richard Harville and Michael Farish, Julie Farish, and my lovely bride, um,
Okay,
Cole
there we go.
Loler, Ann Price, Kathy Booth. Hello, all of y'all. All right,
Okay,
Rex.
we have our guest. Brian, can you hear us?
Yes, sir. I can hear both of you. Great. Can you hear me
Okay.
okay?
Yes, sir. We got good audio and good video now. That always makes it a little bit better. So, Brian, why don't we set it up like this? You had reached out to us and wanted to communicate with us and, possibly come on the show or at least chat with us. So why don't you tell us kind of what prompted you to, reach out to us and have a chat with us?
Sure. Well, first of all, I appreciate you guys letting me come on. Been very gracious. And Rex, I did not know that your father had passed away. I talked to you earlier today, and so my condolences to you. I apologize for not knowing that in advance, but I just appreciate you guys having me on the show. The main thing here is I've been quiet. I was named in the previous lawsuit, and when I mean named, I'm not named as a defendant or whatever. It just brings up my name and my company name. And it's very easy to stay silent about that kind of thing. It's much easier to stay silent than it is to speak up sometimes. But now that this new lawsuit is out, I just reached out to y'all because I wanted to make sure that you heard another side. And what I mean by that is the numbers that I'm named in. I think it's like 68 to 79, somewhere in there. I can speak to those things, and I won't speak to other things because I'm not going to speak to something I'm not 100%, informed about. But on those things, I can speak to them, and I can just say that really, in a nutshell, it's patently false. The accusations that are being leveled, they're not being leveled towards me; they're being leveled towards Brad Jerkovich and the church. But obviously, I'm the horse's mouth here, right? I'm the one that can speak to the situation, and that's why I thought it important to reach out to y'all.
Yeah,
Brian,
so I've got it up on the screen so folks can take a look at the lawsuit. I think we either posted it or most people can find it online. If not, we'll post it after the show. So just wanted to point that out. Dude, go ahead.
hey, Brian, I wanted to ask you, I mean, just for, for clarity's sake, for everybody watching the show, has anyone asked you to speak to us? I mean, does anyone know you're speaking to us?
Yeah, no, that was on purpose. I did not ask for permission or bring it up because I wasn't sure what the response was going to be. I'm not a staff member at First Bossier, but I do work with First Bossier, and I am kind of putting it on the line a little bit tonight. But I was not asked to come on here by anyone. Brad Jerkovich or anybody that's known on the staff is aware or has asked me to do this. I'm coming on my own, right? I'm my own man, and it names me here. And I guess I should come with a disclaimer of I'm not here to speak on behalf of First Bossier or anyone named in the suit, only to the items that pertain to me.
So reading the first suit and then reading this amended petition, it sounds to me, just to put it in real simple terms for the folks out there that haven't actually read it, it seems to me that they're insinuating in this suit that, Brad, and again, I know I'm greatly simplifying it, that Brad was basically just writing you checks for, X amount of dollars or paying you X amount of dollars. And they kind of, it's like they're saying y'all are trying to launder the money. I mean, they don't say that in the suit, but it kind of leans that way. I mean, and I've got a question for you. So why do you think they're, well, for lack of a better term, picking on you? I mean, you were in the first suit and now you're in this one. Have you given any thought to maybe why?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I can't speak to people's intentions, right? I don't know these people. I don't know most of these people. I may have met a few of them here and there, but I will say that it does seem to be the overarching theme here. The accusation that they're making is, especially where I'm named here, is that Pastor Brad Jerkovich is paying my company money to increase his influence in what's called the Conservative Baptist Network. And you can start at the beginning, and he's basically saying it's making this accusation that he's funneling money to his friends. I don't think it's so much that it's me as much as they're trying to prove that he's doing something wrong. And it's just not there. I'll give you an example here. Let's speak to the timeline. The Conservative Baptist Network, I believe, was founded somewhere around COVID 2020, right? I'm not a part of the CBN. I'm not on the steering committee. I've not done any work for the CBN. I've never been to a CBN function. I've never been asked by Brad Jerkovich to do anything for the Conservative Baptist Network. And yet they seem to think that my ties, and in fact, they label that on here. They say that on there, that my tie to Brad Jerkovich is a friend of the CBN. My relationship with First Bossier began as a result of a student pastor named Ian Dunaway in like September, October of 2018. He asked me, he's asked me as he's gone to different churches to do that staff role, to do some work for him. I do print and graphic design and communications and consulting. So that was the beginning of the relationship. I didn't have a relationship with Brad prior to that. I didn't know who Brad was. I had to remind Brad who I was, and he kind of knew who I was. But my first face-to-face with Brad was in April of 2019, a whole year before that CBN thing started. The timeline's wrong. The timeline's false. The accusation is wrong. And forgive me, I need a cough drop myself here.
So
Um,
you started work around 2019 for First Church?
2018. I started doing contract work for them in 2018, and then I came on a retainer basis in March of 2019.
And you had never had any, professional dealings or any dealings with Brad Jerkovich actually prior to that. You'd had nothing.
No, the only time that I met Brad was we had both gone to a 25th anniversary for Ronnie Floyd up in Northwest Arkansas. That was my first time meeting him, and I took a photo of him and his wife because I was a photographer that night. Other than that, I had never had a deal with him at all.
So in the suit, and let me go back to the first one and just borrow from it from a little bit. So they basically claimed in the first petition that you were paid $146,000 over 2 years, like $8,000 for travel, $30,000 for this, $20,000 in credit card payments. Anyway, and in this amended petition, they didn't list any of the amounts, I don't think. So can you maybe describe for everybody what type of work that you did for First Bossier and why, some of these amounts may or may not actually be as much as they seem? Was this just money that he paid you, or was this for printed stuff? Was this for clothes?
This was for work, for print material. One of the things that I do with my clients is if I'm on a monthly retainer for them, basically doing graphic design, right, or communications consulting, or whatever, I make available wholesale pricing for print. And I'll give you an example of that. A banner that you might order to put here. I'm at a Starbucks right now, but a banner that you might put here, 15 feet tall and 5 foot wide, will cost you around $650 retail. Wholesale will cost you about $90, right? So the whole thing is I try to save churches money as I work with them by saving them money on print media while also offering them a service that they're then paying me for. So no, there was never any money that was just given to me. I did work for them, and I am their in-house, if you will, even though I'm not there. I'm in Arkansas, graphic designer and communications guy. Although I'm not on staff, I'm a W-9 employee. The numbers were not accurate. I'm assuming that's why they weren't listed in the second suit. But one thing, I mentioned this in the pre-interview. I think one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that when you see a filing such as this one in black and white, people assume that it's all facts, right? In fact, in that lawsuit, somewhere in there, it says statement of facts. And yet, every single one of those numbers, like number 69, it starts with on information and belief. And really, as I talked to an attorney, because there were all these false statements being made about me, I wanted to know, hey, can I pursue some sort of libel here? What do I need to do? What my attorney told me is you can pretty much say whatever you want about a person as long as you begin it with upon information and belief. What it basically is saying is we think that maybe, right? And again, I'm not aiming this toward anybody in particular. I'm just saying the information in here that's saying upon information and belief that Jerkovich caused First Bossier to make payments to Brian Arms. That's not a fact. That's an assumption, right? And I know because that last statement, it says, because it is believed that Mr. Armis is connected to Dr. Jerkovich via the CBN, suggests that there was a diversion of funds to enhance Dr. Jerkovich's influence in the CBN. I have zero influence in the CBN. I've done nothing but, just graphic work and that kind of thing. And it's been a simple exchange. I think they're kind of grasping at straws and trying to make a case that's simply not there. And that's why I think it's important to speak up.
Okay, so to clarify, I think you do things kind of similar to what I do, in the IT support that I do, because one of the questions is, why does he need to be on a retainer? Is that common? So I'll kind of address that for a second and then let you address it, Brian. Actually, it is fairly common. It depends on the church size. It depends on our small business size, and depends on the deal with the customer. But in my case, I do have some customers that are on retainers. I don't have any churches that are, but I do have some of my small business clients that are on retainers. So, Brian, would you mind kind of educating us or
Sure.
educating the viewers a little bit on how that works?
Yeah, I don't work exclusively with churches. I do a lot of nonprofits as well. It's what I cut my teeth on. I've been in communications for 20 years within churches and nonprofits. But basically, I have an hourly rate. And that hourly rate, has a minimum of 1 hour, right? So if First Bossier was to call me for every little thing and I begin to, do that hourly rate, it would be much more than if they said, look, we're doing this amount of work. Can we work together to basically guarantee you this much money per month if we can do, if you'll lower that hourly rate? And it lowers it by about 2/3. Right, that creates a situation where it ebbs and flows. Around Easter and fall, my workload's going to go up. And that's just why I don't charge them anymore for that. That's just the way it is. So that's why we do it on retainer. It's kind of like leveling your electric bill. You know what I mean? But it's for all intents and purposes, I put in full-time hours at Bossier, attend all those meetings, and also come down and visit with the staff there every several weeks, as much as I'm able. But yeah, retainers is pretty common in our industry.
All right, and just to clarify, and I know that you said that the numbers in the first one, are not accurate. And, I'm not going to ask you the exact amounts because, if you know those, you may not want to reveal them. That's fine too. But was not all of that is just for your consulting services? Did some of that include products or services or other things as well? Or can you clue us in on that?
Yeah, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so I don't want to be real specific here, but because I don't want to open a can of worms. But
right.
They even mentioned that, right? Well, we don't really know. Some of this is print stuff or T-shirts or that kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely. But if I'm paying $90 for a banner wholesale, I'm not making any money on that. But that number's still getting added to the tally. I think that's the way it worked. I know that the numbers didn't add up according to my wife. She's like, that'd been nice. But
yeah. Okay. Duke, did you have a question?
Well, oh yeah. Well, Brian, so like So you haven't had I mean, it's articulated in the suit that you had a relationship with, Pastor Jurgovich, and you're basically articulating that, hey, look, you do this thing for a living. You were solicited to come and do this because you do it for a lot of churches, and you know y- I think I believe I'm listening. I think you can understand why people would have questions. I'm playing devil's advocate here a little bit. I think you can understand why people would have questions, about maybe some of the things that have went forward. There was information that was shared with us regarding Paige Patterson and the Sandy Creek, thing and all that. And, some folks, do you think the questions regarding money and whether or not monies from First Bossier went to some of those things, are those legitimate questions? Do you think maybe should people of the church, is that a legitimate answer that people would want?
Well, I mean, again, I can't speak to anything outside of what officially. I'll give you my opinion, but I want to make sure it's just that. Look, because I know that what's listed here with my name attached to it is wholesale inaccurate, right? I mean, it's really what they're talking about is intent here. The motive, the intent here was to do this, and it is not the case. And I'll be glad to say that in front of a judge if I get the opportunity to under oath. Um, it does make me question everything in that suit, and I think it ought to make everybody question that, right? Um, I want to be careful with my colorful conversation here, but
Of course.
if you knew if you knew that there was just a little bit of arsenic in a big batch of brownies, let me put it that way, um, you wouldn't trust the whole batch. And so I making connections that may or may not be there. That's what I feel like this suit is trying to do. And as it pertains to my items here, I can say confidently that it's not true. So I would doubt all of
Well,
it.
I know that you're speaking. I mean, and you have been crystal clear, to what you're named in and your involvement, and and I appreciate that. I mean, look, I appreciate your willingness to come on the show and to talk about the subject matter. I mean, because I got to tell you, very few folks would be willing to step up here to the plate on video and talk about the subject matter. And I got to tell you, my hat's off to you. I mean, I think, like you said earlier, pre-show, we talked a little bit about when we first talked to you, and that we believe. I mean, we articulated that Rex and I believe that you know if it's the truth, let's put it out in the light, and if it's untrue, let's put it out in the light. Either way, the light is the disinfectant, and let's let the light do the work on it either way. And that's what we
Right.
try to do.
Well,
And I,
that's a Christian principle, right? I mean, that's what we talked about, or what we always talk about in the Christian faith is John 3:19-21 talks about that the light entered the world, and men hated the light because they loved the darkness for fear that their deeds would be exposed. But those of us who walk in the light, uh, practice the truth. We walk in the light so that it can be seen that our deeds have been wrought in God. And so, yeah, I think we ought to be able to come on a show like this and say, no, you guys are going to talk about it. So I don't mind telling you facts here, and shine some light on it so that you're not just seeing one side of the story, right? Um, I think that's dialogue rather than just a one-sided beating.
So I'm gonna kind of deviate just a little bit here because item number 78. Let me pull it up on the screen. Item number 78 says, because it is believed that Mr. Armas is connected to Dr. Jerkovich via the CBN, suggests that Dr. Jerkovich's diversion of FBB funds, that's an interesting choice of words, to Mr. Armas through Mr. Armas's companies was done to enhance Dr. Jerkovich's influence in the CBN. So, can you explain, for the viewers or whatever, your relationship, if any, with the CBN? I mean, what they're alluding to in this suit is they're rerouting money so it can flow through you and get over to the CBN. Can you explain what your relationship is?
Yeah, I have no relation to the CBN. I'm not part of the network. I'm not on the steering committee. All that information I think is public or on websites. Again, I've never been asked to do any work for that. Brad certainly could have asked me to, look at something, never did. Now, I will say that I go to Southern Baptist Convention. I try to go every year. It usually ends up being about every second or third year because that's a big part of what I do, a big part of my network, right? And I certainly agree with some of what the CBN I've heard them say, as far as, which is really at the crux of all of this, in my opinion. And if you don't know what the CBN is, it's an effort within Southern Baptist life to correct liberal drift within the church, and we're seeing that everywhere. But between cancel culture and wokeism, right, especially in the political spectrum, we're seeing now that really come out in the church. I'm not a woke guy, and that's a tough thing for a brown dude to, you know what I mean, to step up and say. But the reason I'm not doesn't have anything to do with politics. In the church, while everything is politicized, it can be politicized. In the church, it's really a gospel conversation, right? It's not that Rex or Duke, that you and I need to be reconciled to each other through the effort of some sort of social justice dialogue, because you are a culprit because you're white and I'm a victim because I'm brown, right? Really, it's a gospel conversation, because anything that moves the sinner, which we all are, away from being culprits towards being victims is antithetical to the gospel, right? The gospel states that we are all we all fall short of the glory of God and thus in need of salvation through the agency of Christ. And because of that, if I have peace with God, that message of reconciliation, then you and I can have peace with one another. That's the message of reconciliation. And this social justice, wokeism stuff, it's another gospel. It's not the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so that's why there's such a push within Christian circles and Baptist life to correct that. That said, I've never been to an event. I've never been a part of that, but I do very much believe the same as I think most Southern Baptists do in what the CBN has done. But I don't know. Y'all feel free to ask any questions that are very direct, and I'll be happy to answer them.
Well, I've got a couple. I mean, and look, I appreciate your openness and okay, this is going to be a curveball. Are you ready? Look, you know what? I think, we talked a little bit before the show, and I think the reason why we kind of hit it off a little bit, because we are on the same page. I don't care. You can freaking ask me any question. I'm going to tell you what I think. And I think you're the same way. So I'm going to throw this curveball at you. So if the Conservative Baptist Network and what you think, you said you think what this is all about is, kind of the wokeism thing, right? I don't want to put words in your mouth. If that's not, what your belief is, say it's not what it is, and I'm going to stop. But I think maybe it is. I would pose this question. You're not going to know this kind of, Rex will know it. But if that's the case, if this is about wokeism, then why has, and I'm going to say this, and I hope you're not offended by it, but Walk on Water Mike Johnson not standing with Pastor Brad Jerkovich? Why has he abandoned him, in my opinion?
Yeah, I don't have a relationship with Mike Johnson. I can't speak to anything about Mike Johnson. I met him once, so man, I can't speak to that. All I can, I want to be real simple with my opinions.
The reason I say that, and I understand that, I respect that. Again, I threw you a curveball. Again, I don't feel like and I've articulated why previously, but I don't feel like that all Christians stand up for all Christian principles. We should all walk in the light. We should say what we believe. We should be straightforward. But obviously, we're not all that way. Obviously, a lot of us have other um, interests. We have other reasons that we do things, and I'm trying to figure out why we have this dissension here in, Bossier. You're not from Bossier originally, but we have this dissension here. You've been drug into the middle of it, and you've been, according to you, um, and I only say that to be fair, that you've been described as being a part of something that you say and you articulate that you are not. I mean, but shouldn't we all be standing up for each other? But yet we don't.
Yeah. I think it's easy to stay quiet, right? It's easy to not stand up and look. Just I'm doing nothing other than saying, "Hey, man, these numbers that I'm listed in, this is he's not channeling anything to me for CBN at all. I had nothing to do with that." And yet, I just discovered the comment section. By the way, I didn't know how to do that with viewing the comments in the show. And so there's comments here. Was your trip to CBN paid for by First Bossier? Right. That's the immediate response is, uh, well, not pessimistic. Well, just I guess you could say pessimistic. Oh, I bet his trip was paid for by the CBN or whatever. You put yourself, you put a target on your back when you stand up, and I think that's the thing is that I'm not speaking about anybody other than myself. Up until this morning, when I got your message back, I was actually thinking maybe I shouldn't do this. Right? It'd be far easier for me to be here in Arkansas and just do my thing and stay out of it. But when there's lies out there that you can correct, I think we all, as humans, and especially as Christians, have a duty to stand up and go, "No, sir, that's false." And since I mentioned that question, and I see it now, I'll go ahead and answer that. Was your trip to CBN paid for by First Bossier? No, they've never paid for a trip for me to do any. I don't know what trip to be CBN would be. I've gone to convention several times since I've been helping First Bossier. They've never paid me a dime to go to convention or anything related to the CBN.
All right, so let me ask a question that was, and forgive me, viewers, it's up in the comments somewhere, but I don't see who asked it first. Okay, so the comments are kind of going nuts because you are listed, you may not know, you are listed on First Bossier's website staff page as communications and graphics. So I think now correct me if I'm wrong, I think you said earlier that you are basically a paid third party guy involved in, communications and graphic design and all that. Can you clarify that?
Yeah, I'm a member of the team at First Bossier, just like a volunteer would be a member of the team. May not be paid, or you may have some paid staff on there. But I do consider myself a member of that team, and I interact with the staff on a daily basis, all day. I keep office hours with First Bossier, or make myself available during those office hours. But, as you know, and we'll get in the weeds here, but the difference between a W-9 employee and a W-2 employee is that a W-2 employee, you get to tell what they do and, throughout the day, and a W-9, it doesn't work that way. Obviously, I have other clients, and that's the way to keep it honest. I have been on staff before full time at different churches, and I don't think I'll ever do that again unless the Lord really makes that clear.
All right, so let me take that and kind of run with it just a little bit. So to clarify, are you a member of First Bossier, or you don't have to say specifically where you live, but where do you live and go to
I live
church?
in Northwest. I live in Northwest Arkansas. I go to Baptist Church here.
Okay, so you're not a member of First Bossier, to clarify for everybody in the comments.
I'm a member of one church, and I work with several churches, but I still am accountable and a member of a church here in Arkansas.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, go ahead, Duke. I'm going to scroll through some comments.
Well, look, Brian, I had one that somebody messaged me and they hit me with a question. I mean, I'm assuming they know who you are. Maybe they don't know who you are. And this will be a little bit of a curveball. But Ronnie
That's okay.
Floyd, they question that they posed to me, they said that, this is where, Brian met Jerkovich was at Ronnie Floyd's church. And, a lot of folks may not realize it or not. Ronnie Floyd was at one time, I think the president of the Southern Baptist Convention, and he ended up, I think, resigning. Correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, because I don't know the history. I'm reading here that he resigned, and it was over some of the sexual abuse, a sexual abuse inquiry. And I think those types of inquiries are still, that was a big subject of discussion at the recent Southern Baptist Convention.
Yeah.
What would be your
I can
comment
clarify
there?
that timeline. Yeah. So I worked at Cross Church from, 2004 to 2011. Okay. When Ronnie Floyd was the pastor there. Uh, Doc, uh, Brad Jerkovich worked there. Gosh, I don't know when. Maybe the 60s. I'm just kidding. He worked there, a long
He's
time
not that
ago.
old. That guy looks too
No, I know.
young
I'm
to be
kidding.
that old.
No, I know. I'm kidding. But he was there years before me. Our times didn't overlap there. He did work there, I believe, and I think met his wife there. But I was not on staff, nor was I a member of that church when he was there. Um, Ronnie Floyd was the president of the executive committee, is what you're referring to. Just the last couple of years, he stepped into that role maybe 3 years ago, and was there for a couple of years. But I haven't talked to Ronnie since 2011. So
Now, you are a active participant that goes to the Southern Baptist Convention and all, and Paige Patterson has been a subject of discussion at the Southern Baptist Convention, and I think during his tenure, some of these type allegations, and you don't have to comment if you don't want. I mean, because I'm kind of getting out in the weeds a little bit here, but you know, speaking from experience, what's your knowledge to that? I mean, I heard a lot of rumblings about that.
I mean, I know who Paige Patterson is because I've been going to conventions for 20 years, off and on. He was the president of two seminaries, if I remember correctly. But that's really the really all I know about Paige Patterson. Um, uh, I've probably learned a little bit on blogs here and there, but nothing. I don't know. I don't have any firsthand information on any of that as far as it pertains to the Sandy deal that you mentioned.
Well, I think it's been interesting so far, and folks are rolling questions through here. So
That's okay.
trying to.
If you don't mind, Rex, there's one right here. The bottom one on mine says he's never been paid by First Exposure to go on a CBN event. However, has he ever been reimbursed by First Exposure or any staff member there for his going to CBN? No, I've never gone to a CBN function ever. So no.
Yeah, this was from Larry James Hawkins, so I'll put that up there real quick. All right, so that answers your question, Larry. Let's see. Again, I'm trying to go down through these, so go ahead, dude.
Hey, Brian, I mean, look, you got this, man. I can see you becoming a little uneasy, but I mean, look, I think you're handling this well. So the follow-up question that the person that sent me the question regarding Ronnie Floyd said, is Ronnie Floyd woke?
Man, I don't think so, but I don't know. That's the thing is I get it. You want to kind of ask questions about the things that we're bringing up, but like I said, I haven't talked to Ronnie in years. I don't know his philosophy. I don't think he is. Um, I think the woke deal is really coming from the younger ranks. Ronnie's probably 60 years old, I think, 60, 65. But no, I don't think he is.
Do you think
that answers
do
the
you
question.
think the do you think the wokeism is coming from the newer generation and not the older generation? I mean, I'll give you an example. Like we call it, we have joked on our show before. We've talked about churchtainment, and how I grew up in a small, Southern Baptist little church. Dude, I'm telling you, it was small, and we didn't have any lights. All the lights were on. It was bright. You could see everybody clear as day. It wasn't dark. There wasn't no colored lights. There wasn't no show. There wasn't any of that. And somebody one time said to me, I described it as churchtainment, and they said to me, well, there's a lot of people that they need to be, uh, that's what we have to do to get them into the church. And I kind of didn't, I kind of like drew up at that got at me a little bit. And I got to tell you, I find myself, I don't get into that. I don't get into that. It turns me off. And, but I'm wondering, do you think we're going in the wrong direction? Do you think that it's the wokeism? Maybe it's a result of churchtainment, the big church, the competition, the lights, the show. It's more of an entertainment and not about, you know, what
I
it needs
think
to be about.
I think more importantly, there have been false gospels presented since the beginning of since Jesus. Um, you know, New Testament warns us time and time again about um, false Christs and false gospels, and it's really what it is. I mean, social justice seeks to gain something, get you to admit that you're guilty of something that you're not guilty of, and then the goalposts just continue to move, and it's never satisfied. I don't know if it's lights or whatever. I won't speak to methodology. I just think that every generation has a false gospel that's presented. Again, the gospel's that all men need to be reconciled to a holy God, and Christ is the agency to do that. God gave His Son for us to be able to do that. I know that may not be what your audience wants to hear tonight, and probably a great number of them are Christian and know that. But there's plenty of things that I wouldn't agree with. Um, Methods that some churches may employ, and yet I wouldn't call them like anti-gospel. You know what I mean? Or that they're creating a drift in the church. I think at the end of the day, um, you have a great number of people sitting in church pews across America and the world, in any church, any denomination, and any city on any given Sunday that simply do not know the Lord, and don't have a true relationship with Jesus. And I just think that's wholesale true of everybody. I think wokeism is a product of that, of people who don't have, who aren't truly Christians, who have a form of godliness, the Scripture says it, and are seeking to, satisfy with this, social justice gospel.
Okay. Duke, you got any more questions or?
And I will say that I do believe, by the way, that probably has a lot to do with the suit. The reason that Brad has been questioned in these things is because he, it all coincided on timeline. Again, speak to motives, but it all coincides, right, with his participation with the CBN. That's what they're addressing. They're addressing wokeism, and wokeism in the church is a real danger. So I, for one, am grateful for the guys that have stood up for that.
Well, okay. Well, and I hate to keep saying this. But look, the devil is real. The devil is real as the good Lord above is real. And if you say that you got wokeism in the church, it's a fair question to ask, or if Pastor Brad is fighting wokeism and the Conservative Baptist Network is fighting wokeism, do we have people walking away from wokeism? And I'll go back, because I have not seen, since all of this debacle with First Church and Brad Jerkovich, I've not seen again. And look, when I say this, look, I like Mike Johnson. I do. But the criticism here is that Mike Johnson has used his faith and used his church. I shared with you in our pre-show that when I ran for the legislature, a local, news media asked me, they said, "Why do you think you lost the race?" And I said to them, I said, "I think the reason that I lost the race is because I was unwilling to use my faith to get elected to politics." It's not you saying this. This is me saying this. I think that Mike Johnson walked away from First Bossier and he's not standing beside, Pastor Brad is because he didn't want to get tarnished. I mean, he's now sitting up there at Cypress Baptist, and I'm not wanting to throw rocks, but I'm just stating it as it is. But if Pastor Brad is fighting wokeism, why is Mike Johnson and why is he not standing by his side? He should be standing by his side. I mean, why are other Christians not standing by his side? What is your thoughts on it? I know you don't want to comment. I know you don't. I mean, and I'm sorry, but you're
That's
here,
okay.
and I gotta throw you that curveball, brother. I gotta do
Look,
it.
look, I'm here. I've done what I've done, right? But
We're real, and
I
we're
just
living
I
in the
don't
light right here.
I don't want to comment because I don't know mine. You know what I mean? I just don't. I mean, Mike would know who I was if he saw me. If he looked down and saw me.
I've said it on this show
I don't think I
multiple
could pick him
times.
out from a crowd.
I've said it on this show multiple times. Mike knows I'm asking this question. He's heard this question before. And, you know, why has he not addressed it? Why not? Why let me broaden it. Let me back up a little bit. Let me take Mike Johnson individually at it. Why do Christians not stand up for other Christians? Why do we not back each other up when one of us goes out online like you, Brian, here tonight, that's going out on his belief? Why would other Christians not support you in defending yourself publicly on video and saying that, hey, these allegations that are being made against me are untrue? Why would anybody have any objection to that?
I don't know. I think we're just skeptical in general. Look, the comment. No one knows me from Adam on here, and yet everybody wants to know. Well, did he do this? Well, did he do that? As far as other Christians, man, I can't. I don't know. I know that it's like Martin Luther King said, right? He said, in the end, it's not the people who I'm going to butcher this, but basically, it's not the people that hurled insults at you that you're going to remember. It's going to be the people who stood silent that had an opportunity to stand up. And look, one of these comments says this guy's not going to have a job. That's okay. That's okay, because I don't think that's the case. But at the end of the day, you got to ask yourself what's more important. You know what I mean? A job or being able to stand up and say, what's true.
Well,
Amen to
and
that.
I just want to address Ryan Haygood's comment too. That either Brad approved this or isn't going to have a job. Just to reiterate what you said in the beginning, to be clear, nobody from First Bossier knew you were coming on or approved anything. You didn't ask permission of anybody. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. And that was on purpose because I thought if I mentioned it to anybody or if I, told them, hey, I'm going to be on the show, if I asked, I wasn't sure what the answer was going to be. So, but I need to stand up and say something because these numbers mention my name and they're wrong. And when we hear that, I get it. No one knows me. Maybe people think I'm just sitting here lying, and that's fair because I don't know y'all. But you should listen to both sides. That's in the Bible too, right? Everything sounds right when you hear a story until you hear the other part of the story, and things start to kind of come together. That's all I'm here doing. I'm not here to defend anyone other than to just say that's wrong, and I'll be glad to back that up. However, I need to back that up.
Yeah, a mentor of mine once told me, he said, there is no black or white or right or wrong. There's only infinite shades of gray. And somewhere in that gray, is the truth. I don't subscribe to that. Everybody has their own truth because, well, that's not the way it is. There's the truth, and well, then there's not the truth. So I want to say I appreciate you coming on and kind of putting yourself out there because you didn't have to. And at least, whether Duke and I, approve of what Brad's doing politically in the church or not, we wanted to make sure and give you the opportunity to get your side out there.
I appreciate it.
Brian, hat tip to you, brother. I can't say enough about you coming on the show and telling your side of the story. And just it takes a lot of courage to do that. I think I described this earlier to you and Rex. We were talking, and you had some reservation, a little bit, and the truth of the matter is that a lot of times when folks are faced with issues and questions in life of what to do and the decisions to make, sometimes people don't know what they're going to do until they're posed with that issue or that question, whether, it's the fight or flight syndrome. That's the thing. And in this case, you didn't fly. You came right here to the public, stated your case, and you know what? Hat tip to you, brother. I mean, let the light shine on it. And I think that's the way in society, all the way around, we need to be more in the churches. I mean, in our individual lives. I mean, if more people were doing that in politics, if more people were doing that, I think society would be better off all the way around. Don't you think?
Absolutely. I think there should be discussion, right? It's one thing to dialogue. It's one thing to monologue. It's nothing to dialogue. So, I think the more people you have at the table, the better. And, given the choice, I'd do it again. So I appreciate you guys letting me come on the show. Whatever that means, that's okay. It's just important it was important to me to make sure that you guys understood. They didn't ask me to do it. They didn't know I was going to do it. And yet I felt compelled to do it because it names me. And that's important. We should be able to say what we want to say. Gosh, I'm fixing to quote Dave Chappelle, but on Saturday Night Live last week, Dave Chappelle gave this crazy, intro, and yet at the end, he always does what he always does. He gets real serious, and he said, "It shouldn't be this scary to talk," and that's true. We should be able to just speak up. So.
Can't argue with that at all. Yeah. All right, Brian. Well, we appreciate you coming on again. You're welcome back anytime. Just let us know if you do want to come on or anything like that.
Were we fair, Brian?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Okay. If we
that's
weren't,
the main thing.
I mean, now's your opportunity to say no. You guys were ruthless.
No, you guys were great. I appreciated it.
All right, Brian.
All right. Well, have a good evening.
Guys, thanks, everybody.
Yeah, you can just go ahead and hang up, and we'll continue talking about you.
Okay. All right. Well, good. See you.
Right, thanks, Brian. Well, that was definitely interesting.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, I like that guy.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, the lawsuit, again, is basically alluding to them funneling money through Brian. And, I certainly can't say whether they were or weren't. I don't have access to the financials and all that sort of thing. And honestly, I don't really care except for, again, the political angle. But like we said, I applaud Brian for coming on here. He didn't have to do it. I'm sure if he had an attorney talking to him, the attorney would have advised him, no, don't go on that show with those guys. But he felt he needed to stand up and, set some of the records straight apart from the accusations in the lawsuit, because that's what they are at this point.
Now, I got to tell you, I just seen a comment from somebody who I haven't seen, and good grief, I would think it was 100 years. Nathan Tabor. And
yeah,
I'm sorry, Nathan. When I'm in the middle of a show, I'm gonna have to think about your comment because it's kind of deep at the moment. But he says 5-point Calvinists believe in self depravity. He is supposed to be a 5-point Calvinist, but apparently missed that point all about the money. I hadn't seen
Hmm.
anything from Nathan Tabor in a long time.
Well, that's interesting. We
Anyway,
are drawing a very diverse crowd this evening.
absolutely, Greg Bell. If the attorney representing ever answer, those paragraphs will be denied for lack of evidence.
All right. Debbie Spencer Worley said a little while back, what position does Brian hold? And he did discuss that in the beginning, Debbie, in case you missed it. But basically, he was a third party communications and graphics guy for the church. So, he honestly does stuff similar to what I do, although I don't work with that many churches now.
AJ Mandy Foyle, the frying oil is now cooling down. And then, and then Jason Angle immediately after says he needs an attorney.
Yeah, maybe so, but he's pretty well spoken, and if he's
Now,
telling the truth, well, he's telling the truth.
now Larry Hawkins says cockroach of the week, Brian.
Yeah, and Brian, we need to explain if you're still watching. Cockroach of the week is not necessarily a bad thing, not necessarily.
Yeah,
So.
I would think in this case that he is meaning that you are the cockroach of the week for a good reason. That would be the reason.
Yeah. So, let
And
us know in the comments.
Jill folks says, "What's this about?" Just tuning in. I'm sorry, Jill. You're gonna have to start the show over. We
Yeah.
can't go back and cover this one.
Once we hit the finish button and all that, you can hit the rewind button and go back and see. But I want to know in the comments, did any of the viewers learn anything? And look, we realize a lot of you in our audience are one-sided, not fans of First Church and not or at least not fans of Brad. But did you honestly learn anything from hearing Brian talk, from hearing his side of it?
Yeah. Now Jason Angle says again. He says, "Pretty sure Nathan is on to something if he's referring to Calvinism." I mean, yeah, Nathan was referring to Calvinism.
Okay, Mr. Lowry, shall we go ahead and jump ahead to the city council stuff real quick, or it's about 8:20, about 8:20 now.
My goodness, did we did cover Chandler Air? Has anybody registered for Chandler Air? I mean, if you want reservations, you need to call City Hall. I mean, I understand they're trying to get a new secretary down there for Chandler Air.
Yeah, and look, they'll even do press releases now with our new public information officer that they appointed. I heard that Tommy will even pick you up in the Tahoe if you want to go for a Whirlybird ride.
Yeah, that's
I heard that. I don't know that to be true. Sources say.
But there's a nasty rumor on the street that the council hasn't bought into the idea. Now, while, I mean, you might contact their new public information officer as of yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Let's see.
When I earlier, Rex, when I was jokingly saying that, there's a GOG with a G, not GOB with a B, but a GOG network now. I mean, we need to make sure that we've got our pronouns correct. There is now a GOG network.
Okay. Let's see. That would be Good Old Girls, right?
Good Old Girl Network. Yeah. I mean, formerly the Good Old Boy Network. I mean, and we're woke in Bossier City now. So we are going to have to start calling it the GOG with a G network, the Good Old Girl Network, because Rex. Now this is a long and convoluted story. Now, this kind of first made our radar just a little bit because a lot of y'all watching, remember here recently, y'all might have saw, y'all know Jerry May. Rex, you remember Jerry May?
Yeah. KTBS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
KTBS, great journalist. I mean, he's done a
Mhm.
lot of good. In fact, I got to tell you, we were kind of watching him close here at the end of his career. We
Right.
were watching him close because when this stuff with I done forgot his name. What's the guy, the policeman that fleeced me for money for the Shop a Cop program? Oh yeah, Sanford. I
Yeah,
remember.
that guy that got
Yeah.
invested by the FBI.
Yeah, the guy that, Charles Jacobs, we sent public information request to, and he said, "Oh, I can't give you anything because there is a federal investigation ongoing, blah, 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 or whatever, all that crap."
Right.
Anyway, okay, Jerry May, he actually did true journalism. He actually went to the apartment complex where supposedly Sanford was bullying the person that managed the place, all that good stuff. And anyway, let me get off of that. Jerry May did a good job on all that stuff. I mean, he did some true journalism. We had a little skepticism because it was kind of alleged to us that he was buddies with Tommy. But he didn't hold nothing back on that investigation.
All right.
And but Jerry May inexplicably up and was retiring from the media. Remember that?
Yeah.
It's been within the last month or so.
Yeah, last month or so, he did a little 1 minute, minute and a half retirement spill on Channel 3.
So, remember the public information officer for Bossier had come down with a medical problem,
Right.
and
Tracy Ponder. Yeah.
she was medically retired, and so it was kind of insinuated to us that, possibly Jerry May was fixing to be the next public information officer for Bossier City. So we did some rooting around, and we didn't get any feedback that that was the case. We got none whatsoever. Zero, nada. And so fast forward to now, and the question kind of popped up. Well, or the inference was popped up that maybe he was going to be the public information officer for DOT. And was like, well, wait a minute. No, there's no way that can be possible because Aaron Buchanan is the public information officer for DOTD. Well, as it would turn out, Aaron Buchanan had resigned from DOTD. Did you know that, Rex?
No, I did not. Well, actually, I did only because of the show notes.
I know we don't fake very good.
I know. I was trying to, and I just didn't play along. But no, I didn't know that she was going to leave the DOTD and go to work for Tommy.
Well, you've got a video up. I mean, maybe the story is told right there. Why don't you play that part?
Yeah, let's see if I can get some audio and all that going.
I'd like to introduce our new public information officer. Please come up.
Jameson upcoming, Jason Angle.
Known and everything. She's been with DOTD for the past 5 years?
6 years.
6 years. And of course, she was on Channel 3% before then, but this is our new public information officer, Aaron Buchanan. So she's taken over a job that we haven't had vacant for the past year or so for other, for Tracy, but she started yesterday and she's already hit the ground running and she's doing awesome. So it's going to be great to have someone like her to push Bossier City. So I'm very glad she's with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome to Bossier City and welcome on behalf of the council.
All right, thank you. Glad to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Side note, it's not her first time in Bossier City, so anyway, I've known Erin for a while, and I think she will do a fine job in the role of public information officer for Bossier.
Yeah, so, I mean, another allegation that was made, and let me point out here, David Jones, former city councilman David Jones, posts in the comments, "Don't burn me on where you got Erin. Don't burn me on where you got Erin." Well, in addition to that, about Aaron becoming the public information officer, we also got that Jerry May was going to be taking the position of Aaron at DOTD. Well, Rex, I actually spoke with Jerry May, and
Oh, did you?
Jerry May said, no, that's inaccurate. He is not going to work for DOTD.
Hmm. Yeah, and I've known Jerry for a while too. He's usually always friendly to me. So whatever he's going to do, we wish him well.
Yeah, but interestingly, Cut 8, we sent a public information request, to the city attorney and the appointing authority, Mayor Chandler Air, Tahoe Tommy, the Donald Trump of Bossier, Tommy Chandler, requesting any communications pertaining to Aaron Buchanan's, job offer or whatever you want to call it for the public information officer of Bossier City. And well, that was 14 days ago. And, actually there's like 10 days required to respond, but who's counting when it comes to Bossier City?
Actually, 3 days they have to respond and give us a reason why they need additional time to meet the request legally. But, who's counting?
Yeah, who's counting? And I mean, look, to the person that sent the email to us regarding the police chief and the federal investigation and, us being uninformed and inaccurate, just so you know, the day after you sent that email, we've had a public information request into the city attorney for personnel action forms, and we've still not even gotten a response from the city attorney. So, and
Paging Charles Jacobs.
Not that we have, not owned or me owned up to my crow eating or not, but I'm not going to eat my crow until the city attorney at least acknowledges my request to validate that I have to eat crow. But he hasn't even done that. And that's been how long ago? Months?
I don't know. We've lost count. We've got information requests we got to go back and follow up with. I've got some more that I need to send on to see whether
Rex,
we have a puppy killer in our midst.
Oh, yeah, we're going to move on to that. But hey, Rex, the bigger question here is allegedly, Aaron Buchanan's been promised, 6 figures to be the public information officer. I mean, I said, wait a minute, let me go back up here again. David Jones says, don't burn me on where you got Aaron. I mean, allegedly 6 figures. Now, I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if that's inaccurate, but it begs the question. I mean,
well, her salary is public.
Yeah.
So we can request it. It might be 10 years before we get it, but we can request it. She might be in retirement, but
the council sets a salary, and it's not 6 figures. It's not 6 figures at all. So did the mayor's office arbitrarily commit to a salary increase for the position that wasn't approved by the council? Last I checked, in the city of Bossier, in that form of government, I mean, the council's got to approve that, and I don't think that they have done that.
Maybe interesting. And we had a question up here. Let's see. AJ and Mandy Foy said, so will she ever come on the show? I don't know. We'll ask her. If she's got some information. Yeah.
She's more than welcome. I would love for her to come and answer some of the questions as to why the city attorney doesn't even respond to some public information requests. Is that normal from her experience of receiving public information requests? And I mean, is responding and then not providing the information over 14 days with no response, is that normal? I mean, I would love to hear, I would love it.
We would love to hear from the public information officer why the public information requests aren't being fulfilled by the city attorney. And I would like to say that, Jason, apparently I do need a Jameson. Maybe it would knock down this stupid blasted cough that
Well, I just got to know for clarity's sake, Jason, am I hitting on all cylinders here or not? Is that what you're saying? Am I right? Or are you just like, y'all got to have a Jameson just to be able to stomach what I'm saying here? I don't know. I don't know.
All right, so Michael Ferris asked a good question. He says, is there recourse when guidelines for FOIA requests are failed to be addressed? So there is, or there's some guidelines we would have to sue or bring a suit. And the enforcement lies with basically with the Attorney General's office also, and with the local DA's office. So you can imagine how far that would go.
Okay. So I see tonight's going to be about me and Jones going at it. So while I'm at it, let me go ahead and wait a minute. I got to unbutton it. I can't just unsnap it. I thought I was old school. I thought I had snaps like on a Wrangler or something. But all right, I got to roll up my sleeves here because David Jones is apparently calling me out. David Jones says that manpower slot was already open. If it is a net zero budget change in the department, it is covered. Well, I appreciate that, David, and I kind of know that. But the fact of the matter is, it's my understanding she's done improv with 6 figures. Now, that may be accurate. It may not. It's hearsay up to this point.
Did they promise her a Tahoe, a Suburban, or a Traverse?
But it wouldn't be the first time that Tahoe Tommy has, took extravagancies on salaries and trying to steer things in his direction.
Sometimes do what my grandmother used to tell me: let your mouth overload your ass.
Well, and I got to tell you, Rex, today the Bossier City Council, they let Tommy Chandler have it in this regard, exactly what David Jones is talking about. And let me read it again for those in the back row. That manpower slot was already open. If it is a net zero budget change in that department, it is covered. But what if it's not a net zero? What happens if it's not a net zero? Sometimes, do you remember that movie with the classroom? And a lot of y'all watching, so y'all are of this era. You're gonna know the movie right off the bat. But I'm gonna do my best to, try to. Here we go. Here it is. Enough talking. Bueller. Guess what? They're all absent. Nobody's there. So let's go to the replay. And let's show everybody what we're talking about.
Okay, here we go.
Adopt a resolution authorizing the hiring of a personnel specialist 2 for the Human Resources Department due to a transfer. First and final reading.
Crickets.
Bueller.
We'll have a motion
Bueller.
or a second. This item dies for lack of a motion being made.
Adopt
Well,
a
that's
resolution
interesting.
to hire one
That's
booking manager
interesting.
for the Bossier Civic Center. First and final reading.
What?
Let's try it again.
We have a motion and a second. This item number 4 dies for lack of motion being made.
Adopt a resolution to participate in the cost of
Wait a
professional
minute.
services for a traffic study.
Wait a
for
minute,
road
Rex.
between
Stop the presses.
Yeah, lots of crickets chirping there.
Did all of y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? What just happened? Do y'all even realize what just happened? What just happened was the quickest council meeting in the history of Bossier City.
Well, not only that, there was zero, dialogue, zero discussion on that, no nothing. It's almost as if, maybe they talked about it beforehand.
Well, I don't know. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But there's a lot of takeaways to here. Apparently, all the council, including King David and, little Chris Smith and, Meat Hook Hammonds, apparently they all got on the same page because they all agreed on this. Um, so the background here, Rex, here's what happened. So on the one deal, they wanted to hire an event coordinator or whatever over at the
Right.
Civic Center. So what everybody may or may not recall is that Carol Anderson, I think she was the former secretary for the mayor. She took the job as the responsibilities as the executive director of the Civic Center for an additional $18,000 a year, right?
Right.
Well, Tommy the Chandler, Tahoe Tommy, wanted to get her back over as his secretary, but he wanted to bring her back over as his secretary without making her have to give up the $18,000, right?
Right.
So it's reported that she didn't want to give up the 18,000, wanted to come back. So what Tommy wanted to do was try to get somebody put over there into the Civic Center to replace her. Well, as it would turn out, the problem is Tommy had been reduced the budget to where, you had 3 full-time people, but he reduced it to 1 full-time person and 2 part-time people. Well, there's already a full-time person over there, not counting his quote unquote secretary. So to add another, it wasn't budgeted. To add another additional full-time person, an event coordinator, it wasn't budgeted. So all the council people, they're looking at each other like, what the hell is this guy doing? What he's uncut it over there. There's nothing in the budget for that. So
well,
they let it go.
Maybe he needs to downgrade from a Tahoe to a Chevy Chevette.
Well, maybe he just had, maybe on that one issue, he had bad advice from the city attorney. Maybe he had bad advice from the CAO. I don't know exactly. But you know what? That wasn't the only case. In fact, it happened again. There was an HR position. And, again, he wanted to add or fill a position in HR. Well, as the story goes, as sources say, he reduced that as well. And wasn't, no budget for it. So what did the council do? Nothing. Nada. Didn't take no action on it. Apparently he lost his mind after the council meeting because he wasn't getting his way.
The plot thickens.
He wasn't getting his way. But kudos to all the council. They were all standing together. Even King David. He wasn't taking any shot at any of the other councilmen.
Huh.
I mean, they all were standing together in, solidarity.
Surprise, surprise.
But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that if they seek to use Chandler Air, I'm guessing they'll probably be denied, unless it's Manchac, of course.
Yeah, unless it's Manchac. Gotta run up those expenses. So, all right. Police jury update. I've got, basically since I've lost a few weeks here, I've not sent the public information request. I don't think. I got to double check the email. Off about, seeing if we do have a puppy killer in our midst with the police jury. So I've got to figure that out. And then we got a little more stuff to report on Butch Ford. And we're looking at a little more library stuff that we may have to report on in the next week or two. So we don't have much on that front. We do, however, have, and I probably don't want to get into it tonight because I'm on my last cough drop now, but we do have some information on the Cypress District front. I think we had mentioned that maybe last show or show before, but again, my memory is kind of fuzzy. As far as the Attorney General's office and some movement on that lawsuit against Robert Berry is getting kicked back to the 26th JDC in case we didn't talk about it or any of you missed that. And that's could be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And the police jury has a heavy hand in the Cypress district, as well as the police jury is putting a heavy hand into a lot of your future political races. And we hope to showcase that. They have a lot of your police jury members have frequented Baton Rouge quite a bit. In fact, Rex, I even understand some of your police jury members are hoping to, you know, jump off to another spot to be able to influence, the politics of the state of Louisiana. I mean,
Oh, surely
of
not.
all for the better of all of you watching the show. They don't have any self-interest in mind whatsoever. None whatsoever. And you
Are we,
know,
are we going duck hunting? Do I need to get my waders out, Duke?
I don't know. We may have to look at some campaign finance, contributions and post some views of some of those things. And you know, I don't know. The thing is, Rex. I mean, I don't know. We've been hovering. I mean, we're at 120 people watching right now. We were right at 200 earlier when we were talking about the first church stuff. A lot of those folks have bailed, but Rex, you and I were talking when we did the interview with Brian pre-show, about bringing him on and kind of laying the groundwork of how we were going to do his interview because he wanted to make sure. And the thing is, you never know about people. You never
Right.
know. And look, individually, you people, and I'm not judging people, but I'm saying this is a fact of life. And I can tell you from being in uh life or death situations, the most stressful situations in life, a person truly doesn't know what they're going to do until they're faced with the situation. Are you going to be someone that steps forward and leads? Are you going to be someone that steps forward and handles up on the situation in front of you, regardless of the consequences? Or are you going to be that person that steps back and you follow and you let somebody else be in the front? Nobody, I don't care. I don't give a damn what anybody says. Nobody knows what role they will take until they're actually faced with that dilemma.
That's right.
And, you know, I would say to people, a lot more of you should step forward because I think what people will find is that you've got a lot more fortitude than what you think you have in yourself, and that your morals, your integrity, your fortitude, you've got more than you know. And unfortunately, too many of us don't step forward and we yield the field to people that don't have morality, that don't have integrity, that don't have fortitude, and we get the government that we get.
Yeah.
And, you know, for everybody that comments and you say your 2 cents on this show, kudos to you. That's a
Yeah,
form of it.
we appreciate
Because
all the comments, agree or disagree.
you can't take that away. You're
Right.
taking a position and you're saying what you believe. And to Brian, stepping forward, a hat tip
Yeah.
to that guy. He sacrificed himself, stepping forward to the plate. And we need more people to do that. We need
I
more
agree.
people to do that.
I agree. And speaking of stepping forward, we have the Bossier Library ambassadors who are commenting, and they say, yes, vote them all out, but we can't vote them out if no one runs against them. Again, it goes back to the point. We need to attend meetings. We need to have more people run. We don't need police jurors or school board members or whatever to run unopposed. We just don't.
People that have had, if you've had any thought about yourself, or introspection about running for office, or you think maybe you'd like to serve or what have you, look, reach out to me and Rex. We can tell you what you need to do, what you need to be thinking, the timeline. I mean,
Right.
whether I like you or not, I don't care. I don't care who you are, what you believe, whatever. If you ask me, I'm going to tell you the God's honest truth. But I will tell you, police jury races, they're upcoming. I mean, that will be the next contested races to come up. And if you've ever had an interest in trying to influence or steer public policy in regards to the parish, or you have a care, the time to be thinking about that is now. The time to be laying the groundwork is now. If you want advice on the incumbents in the position and running against them, what the good, bad, ugly is, we'll tell you. Incumbents, I doubt this will happen. But incumbents, you want me and Rex's advice? By all means, call us. I mean, look, my police juryman, Philip Rogers, your DOT score for your company? No, I'm not even going to talk about the fact that you're above the national average. I'm not going to even go there. I'm not going to do it. But I will tell you that you need to address it. You may need to address some of those safety violations. You might need to do it. Those are the kinds of things that if you want to run for political office, I don't care. I'll tell you the truth. An open book.
There you go. All right. Speaking of open books, let's close the book on this evening because, again, I'm getting down to the bare minimum cough drop here. I think it's been a great show. We're at we've been going nearly 2 hours, and we still have 100 people watching right now as we're kind of wrapping it up. Great commentary tonight. There were some comments that we didn't ask Brian only because we wanted to give him a chance to speak, but I think we addressed most of the commentary in there. But either way, we appreciate it. Hey, if you as a reminder, if you've got some email you want to send to us. You want to send it anonymously, make a free protonmail.com account. Don't put any identifying information in it. Send it to bossierwatch@protonmail.com because, again, we do look at all of that, or try to anyway, and, we try to dig into it if we can. You got anything else, Mr. Lowry?
All right. I just had somebody that intends to run for police jury. I'm not going to say their name, but tell me that they will be running for police jury. And they are prepping, and they wanted support and help, just like that. And I'm offering to give them some help.
Yeah, at least give them some advice.
Just like that.
Point them in a direction, maybe not the right direction, but a direction anyway. Okay, we appreciate everybody watching. We are out of here. Good night, Mr. Lowry.
Good night.